All right, how's everybody doing? Hotep. Hey, this is Michael Imhotep, founder of the African History Network, host of the African History Network show. I'm a talk show host, researcher, lecturer, and writer. It is Friday, November 2nd, 2018. Okay, Friday, November 2nd, 2018. And we are live. 4 days to midterm elections. I'll be glad when midterm elections are over with. I'm tired of seeing campaign ads, all right? But hey, I wanted to talk about this story. And, I'm getting ready. I'm speaking at Wayne State University here in Detroit on Saturday at the Motor City Black Age of Comics 10th Annual Conference, Saturday, November 3rd. 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. Wayne State University. So visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, for more information about that. I'm on a panel discussion at 3:30 p.m. Saturday dealing with the movie Black Panther Decoded. But look, I wanted to talk about this story, a breaking news story actually. Yahoo News has an article about this picked up by CNBC. And it's about an interview with Vanity Fair magazine released today with Michael Cohen. Now, we know Michael Cohen is Donald Trump's longtime attorney, his fixer. And we know that Michael Cohen also pleaded guilty to some charges. And he also implicated Trump in some illegal activities as well. Okay, so if we look at this article from yahoonews.com, Michael Cohen, Trump said, quote, "Black people are too stupid to vote for me." Trump said black people are too stupid to vote for me. All right. And this is the article from Yahoo, uk.finance.yahoo.com. And then the interview that took place with Vanity Fair magazine. The name of that article is Michael Cohen says Trump repeatedly used racist language before his presidency. Michael Cohen. Now, Cohen would know Trump better than most people. Cohen would know Trump better than a lot of the black pundits who are out here defending Donald Trump. Okay. Michael Cohen says Trump repeatedly used racist language before his presidency. All right. So if we look at the article from Yahoo News, it says Donald Trump once said, quote, "Black people are too stupid to vote for me," and suggested that all countries run by blacks or Africans are S-hole countries. Okay, said Trump's former lawyer Michael Cohen says in a new bombshell interview. Now, we know that back in January of this year, Donald Trump said that he referred to, this was a meeting dealing with DACA, Deferred Action on Childhood Arrivals. It's dealing with immigration. He referred to African nations, Haiti and El Salvador as S-hole countries. Now, before people say, oh, he didn't say that, when the press went to the White House and asked the White House about this, the White House, they did not deny that he said this. Okay. Not only that, when you research articles about this story, and I have, Trump went to, he called around to some of his key supporters and things like this, and he was bragging about the response that he was getting from it. Okay. So no, he said this. This is how he thinks. This is something that I warned people about Trump during the election. Okay. So also in the Vanity Fair interview, and people should go through and read the interview because I read the Vanity Fair interview that this article from CNBC and Yahoo is about. Michael Cohen said he once was traveling to Chicago with Donald Trump in the late 2000s. And Cohen said, quote, "We drove through what looked like a rougher neighborhood," end quote. He said, quote, "Trump made a comment to me saying that only the blacks could live like this. Only the blacks could live like this," end quote. Apparently, Donald Trump has not driven through poor white rural communities like, in, say, Kentucky, where Mitch McConnell is the U.S. Senator. Apparently, he hasn't driven through rural white areas. But apparently, Trump hasn't been up in the Appalachian Mountains. He ain't been around poor, like dirt poor white people, apparently. Because no, black people are not the only ones who live like that, okay? So they're driving through Chicago, okay, where Trump has businesses there in Chicago. And he said that Trump made a comment to me saying that only the blacks could live like this, okay? And Michael Cohen says Trump repeatedly used racist language before, okay, that's the name of the article. Michael Cohen says Trump repeatedly used racist language before his presidency. That's the article from Vanity Fair, vanityfair.com. So Cohen said that when he and Trump once talked about the first season of Trump's reality show, The Apprentice, right? That, and keep in mind, Trump did not own The Apprentice. He did not create The Apprentice. He was paid about $1 million to do the show. He didn't own the show, and he did not create the catchphrase, "You're fired," either. Go research the TV show, The Apprentice. Trump was somebody they got to be this, be the person who decided who was voted off and things like this. But The Apprentice was not Trump's brainchild, okay? Also, just so you understand, Trump did not write the book, The Art of the Deal. Okay, Trump had a ghostwriter named Tony Schwartz. Tony Schwartz was Trump's ghostwriter for The Art of the Deal. This is easily researchable, easily verifiable. Tony Schwartz has done a number of interviews on MSNBC as well. So this is not some fictitious person. No, people who know this know about Tony Schwartz. That was Trump's ghostwriter, okay, for The Art of the Deal. All right, so Cohen said that when he and Trump once talked about the first season of Trump's reality show, The Apprentice, he said Trump was, quote, explaining his back and forth about not picking Kwame Jackson, who is an African-American investment manager, as the winner, okay? And he said, quote, Trump, according to Michael Cohen, he said, Trump said, quote, "There's no way I can let this black," apparently is F-G win. Okay, so we can fill in the blank. All right. And this is according to Michael Cohen's account. So the White House did not immediately respond to CNBC's request for comment regarding the Vanity Fair article. Okay. And so it's going to be, so being that this is the Friday before midterm elections, it's going to be interesting to see if the White House responds before Tuesday, okay? Because if they lie and say, "Oh, well, this didn't take place," right? What if Michael Cohen has recordings of this taking place? If Sarah Huckabee Sanders lies and says, "Oh, this didn't take place, Michael Cohen is lying," they can't damage Cohen too bad. They can't say, "Oh, he's a liar, he's a criminal, blah, blah, blah." Well, wait a second. He was working with Trump. He was Trump's attorney for 10 years. Trump was paying him. So if you're trying to demean Michael Cohen and say he's a liar, he's not trustworthy, he's a criminal thing, well, what does that make Trump? He was being paid by Trump. Okay, so they may not even respond to this until after the midterm elections. Okay, the reason why is because if they say, "No, this didn't happen," and Cohen possibly has recordings proving it did happen, this is going to piss off more African Americans and cause them to vote against these candidates that Trump is on the campaign trail campaigning for. So it's going to be interesting to see how they play this. All right. Okay, so let's keep going. How's everybody doing? And everybody, African American business owners, hey, post the name of your business here on the thread of the broadcast. Okay, post the name of your business here on the thread of the broadcast, and we'll let you know how you can advertise with the African History Network on the audio podcast of our shows, of our different broadcasts, to get more customers and help increase your revenue. Okay, we reach thousands of people across the country with each episode. Email us at customerservice@africanhistorynetwork.com, customerservice@africanhistorynetwork.com. All right, let's keep going. How's everybody doing? Share this broadcast on your Facebook page. Invite your friends to tune in also. Okay, all right, let's keep going here. Okay, so the White House has not responded yet. Okay. And Trump, for his part, has made a point of claiming he has been reaching out to African-American voters. But the problem is he's not talking directly to African American voters. He's talking largely to white audiences about African Americans. He hasn't gone to the inner cities. He hasn't spoken in front of predominantly African American audiences, except for the Young Black Leadership Summit at the White House last week. And these were a lot of people who have a very poor understanding of history and politics. Okay, let me just leave it at that. Organized by Candace Owens and Turning Point USA. And we talked about, we'll watch my broadcast, we talked about that as well. Okay, so Trump has made a point of claiming that he has been reaching out to African American voters. So we know last month, the month of October, he hosted entrepreneur and music star Kanye West and Football Hall of Famer Jim Brown at the White House. That was a debacle. We know that Kanye West has distanced himself from politics. He said that Candace Owens falsely claimed that he was the one who created the Blexit slogan for African Americans to exit for blacks to exit from the Democratic Party, and he says she falsely claimed that he created the T-shirt and things like this. So he's distanced himself from politics, and he says he has been saying messages that he doesn't believe in, etc. I did a broadcast dealing with that. So when Kanye West said, so when I said like Trump to, so when I said I like Trump to like someone who is liberal, they'll say, oh, but he's racist. You think racism can control me? Oh, that don't stop me. That's an invisible wall. Okay. So this interview with Michael Cohen, which was released today by Vanity Fair, comes more than 2 months after Cohen pleaded guilty to tax crimes and also to election law violations by making a secret $130,000 hush money payment, okay, to porn star Stormy Daniels, all right, on the eve of the 2016 presidential election that sent Trump to the White House, unfortunately. Cohen has said Trump instructed him to make that payment to Stormy Daniels, who was considering going public with her claims of having had an affair with Trump in a decade earlier. Okay, and Cohen was Trump's personal lawyer for years, about 10 years. He's since fallen out with Donald Trump, but Cohen also recently has re-registered not as a Republican but as a Democrat. And he said, basically, if you don't want more years of this chaos going on in Washington, he told people to vote Democratic. Okay, this is not me saying this is what Michael Cohen said. Read the article from Vanity Fair also about this, because they talk about him. Yeah, amid the president's recent tirades, Cohen has re-registered as a Democrat and urged people on Twitter to vote in the midterm elections, calling it possibly, quote, the most important vote in our lifetime. But he actually told people to vote Democratic. He said that events also activated him within him an urge to reveal details from his tenure at the Trump organization, during which he said the president privately uttered chilling racist language in one-on-one conversations. Okay, so I just find this very interesting, because you have, when times get tough like this, you know, you have oftentimes white supremacists and bigots, they'll turn on each other and they'll tell on each other. And they know what they're talking about because they were involved in this, all right? Now, also in this article from Yahoo News, Nelson Mandela came up, okay? So I'm going to scroll down here. Just give me a second here. All right. They talked about Nelson Mandela. Okay, so the article says that, quote, Cohen recalled a discussion at Trump Tower following the candidate's return from a campaign rally during the 2016 election cycle, end quote. Michael Cohen said, quote, I told Trump that the rally looked vanilla on television. And this was a reference to the overwhelming number of white people at the rally, okay? He said Trump responded, quote, that's because black people are too stupid to vote for me, end quote, according to Michael Cohen in the article. Now remember, During the campaign, Donald Trump asked African Americans, what the hell do you have to lose, right? And unfortunately, as I said a couple of days ago in my broadcast, we don't understand. I laid out the principles of political self-defense. This was the broadcast I did, what was it, Tuesday, the 30th, whatever date the 30th was. I laid out the concepts of political self-defense. And I said oftentimes we don't understand the concept of protecting our gains. We don't understand the concept of protecting our gains. Political self-defense goes way beyond just voting, okay? And African-American business owners, hey, post the name of your business here in the thread of the broadcast, and we'll let you know how you can advertise with us also. Okay, but that goes way beyond just voting, okay? But to be able to protect your gains, right, you have to have adequately assessed your gains. And one of the mistakes that we made during the 2016 election cycle is that we did not adequately assess what policies were put in place and how they benefited African Americans. And most of us today still don't know. All right, so let me help you out. You need to read this document right here. This is at whitehouse.gov. Whitehouse.gov. Now, this was up during at least the second term of President Obama. How do I know? Because I read it. I found out about it, I think it's about either 2014 or 2015 was when I first started hearing about it. It's called Progress of the African American Community During the Obama Administration. Progress of the African American Community During the Obama Administration. This, contrary to popular belief, because you see my broadcast, you see my videos, you listen to my radio show, the African History Network show. I deal with facts and evidence. I don't deal with opinions. I don't deal with feelings and emotions. I am a researcher, okay? So when you actually read this and do the research, it lays out policies that President Obama put in place. A lot of African-American organizations, etc., were involved in fighting for these policies, and it shows how they positively impacted the African-American community. Now, if you understand anything about law, it is illegal. It is illegal to write a law that benefits only one race of people or one ethnic group of people in general. Now, if it's a lawsuit, if it's the result of a lawsuit or something like that, that's a little different. The $1.2 billion that President Obama authorized the payout of to the black farmers, that was because of a lawsuit, because of historical discrimination when it came to getting government loans that were set aside for farmers, and African-American farmers were discriminated against that, okay? However, you can write laws where when you have policies, when you have a situation where African Americans or any group are negatively, disproportionately impacted, you can write a law that addresses the conditions, addresses the policy. And that one policy, even though it'll benefit other people, it will positively, disproportionately benefit African Americans. Okay. One of those was the Affordable Health Care Act. Okay. See, a lot of people don't tell you that because of the Affordable Health Care Act, 3 million non-elderly African Americans got health insurance who did not already have health insurance. Nobody wants to tell you that. If you read this, all this documentation is here. Proper documentation ends all conversation. People don't want to have that conversation. 3 million non-elderly African Americans got health insurance because of that one law who did not already have it. The number one reason why people file for bankruptcy is because of medical bills. When you can get affordable health care, you can have preventive maintenance. There were a lot of African Americans' lives who were saved by the Affordable Health Care Act. Nobody wants to talk about this. There were a lot of poor white people who voted for Republicans, whose lives were saved by the Affordable Health Care Act. A lot of poor white people in Kentucky, in a lot of these southern states, a lot of these former Confederate states, Alabama, Mississippi, okay, a lot of these people got health care and it saved their lives. All right. In Kentucky, they don't call it Obamacare. They call it Kentucky Connect. Because what they found was in a lot of these southern states, they found that they liked pre-existing conditions being covered, and they liked you being able to have your children stay on your health care for an additional year until they're 26, as opposed to coming off when they're 25. They liked different, when they broke, what they did was they did tests, they did polls. And when they asked them certain elements of the Affordable Health Care Act, they liked it. But then when they asked them, do you want Obamacare? Do you like Obamacare? They said, no, we don't want Obamacare. So what they did was, in a lot of these states, they just called it something else. So in Kentucky, it's called Kentucky Connect. New York Times had an article. It was actually a survey, and they wrote an article about this. And they found that about 30% of Americans did not know that the Affordable Health Care Act and Obamacare were the same thing. All right. Here's the article. New York Times, February 7th, 2017, because I have thousands of articles bookmarked, right? 1/3 don't know Obamacare and Affordable Care Act are the same. Now, this deals with policies. This deals with politics. Politics is the legal distribution of scarce wealth, power, and resources. Politics is the legal distribution of scarce wealth, power, and resources, and the writing of laws, statutes, ordinances, amendments, and treaties, their adoption, interpretation, and enforcement. This is how we need to understand politics. This goes way beyond voting, okay? I'm not against voting, but there's more that we have to do than just voting, okay? And if you saw the interview that I did with Dr. Claude Anderson this past Sunday on my radio show, the African History Network show, that was October 28th. We have it on Facebook, the African History Network, the African History Network on Facebook. Click on videos, and you can watch all my videos. It's on our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep on YouTube, IMHOTEP. But also, it's an audio podcast form, blogtalkradio.com, blogtalkradio.com / the African History Network show. And the audio there is the best, because I was able to get the audio from the radio station. They sent it to me. So the audio is clearer than the audio on the videos. Okay, but blogtalkradio.com / the African History Network show. And we're on 6 different podcast platforms. So anywhere you get your podcast, just search for the African History Network show. Because we're on TuneIn.com and iTunes and CastBox and some other places. Even Dr. Claude Anderson. If people think Dr. Claude Anderson is telling you don't vote, that's not true. I know Dr. Anderson personally. He knows me. And we deal with this in our interviews. What he's saying is we have to leverage our economics to enforce our vote. He's not telling people don't vote. What he's saying is if people are telling you all you have to do is vote, he's saying that's not true. But he is not telling people don't vote. And all you have to do is go listen to the interview I just did with him Sunday. He's saying we have to get something tangible in exchange for our vote. And we have to leverage our economics to enforce our vote. That's what he's saying. Okay. So what happened was with the Affordable Health Care Act, right? A few months ago, all these people realized, a lot of these white people realized that they had the affordable health care. It was called different things in different states. And these Republicans were trying to take it away from them. So then they're all protesting all across the country. They're outside of their members of the House of Representatives office. They're outside of their U.S. Senator's office protesting, don't take away my health care. Don't take away my health care. People are saying, don't take it away, just fix it. Some of these same people back during the 2010 election voted for some of these idiotic Republicans. And the Tea Party largely rose to prominence in 2010 as a backlash to the passing of the Affordable Health Care Act. No Republicans voted for the Affordable Health Care Act. Go research this. No Republicans, especially in the House of Representatives, none of them voted for the Affordable Health Care Act. The Tea Party was heavily funded by the Koch brothers, Charles Koch and David Koch. Okay? They bankrolled the Tea Party. Because of the marketing of the Tea Party in 2010, a lot of people thought that the Tea Party was a separate political party. They're not. They are a faction of the Republican Party. Therefore, when they went to go vote at the voting booth and they looked at the ballot, it didn't say Tea Party. It said Republican. Okay? They were convinced to vote against their own interests. Now some of these same Republicans who voted for the Tea Party, now they realize, wait a second, it's not in my interest to keep voting for these Republicans because they keep screwing us over. If we look at Kentucky, for instance, in Kentucky, back in 2016, Kentucky got their first, it was Kentucky. Kentucky got their first Republican-dominated state legislature, both branches, in a long time. And they got if I remember correctly, Republican governor. Okay. The first thing that they did, the first thing Republicans in office did, was they passed a law to, and I have the article right here. They passed a law to enact right-to-work laws. Okay? See, when people talk about voting and politics and people, now, if you know me, I'm all for economic empowerment. I've preached economic empowerment for years. My degree is in business administration with a major in marketing. I've been studying media for 26 years, history, economic empowerment, stuff like that. I'm in documentaries dealing with economic empowerment. But I'm not under any illusion, because for African Americans, it's different, okay? Just economic empowerment alone is not going to save us, because it was public policy that put us in this predicament. It's going to be public policy that takes us out of this. I've heard Dr. Claude Anderson say this before. If you actually understand history, you read books like, not just Dr. Anderson's books, his books are good, but those aren't the only ones I read. Read How White Folks Got So Rich, The Untold Story of American White Supremacy. This is the second edition. I have the third edition in my backpack. Okay, this is put out. This is from the Nation of Islam Research Group, and it deals with all the laws and policies and things like this that help put us in this predicament. All this came from the maldistribution of wealth, power, and resources, but that dealt with public policy. Okay, so just economic empowerment is not going to counter that. Just us having more businesses and investing in the white stock market is not going to counter that. I'm all for that. But it's not just that. We have to deal with the policies that help put us in this predicament, okay, as well. So when Dr. Leonard Jefferson, Professor James Small, two of my teachers, and they're historians and African Senate historians, when they teach and I teach, we deal with the pyramid principle. If you look at a pyramid, the foundation of the pyramid is African history and culture. It's our history and culture that gives us our VIPs, our values, our interests, and our principles. Our VIPs, our values, our interests, and our principles. It influences our economic empowerment and it influences our political empowerment. Okay? So we have to have a synthesis of all these. It's not just one. Okay? All right. So I'm going to go to this other article dealing with Kentucky. I'm going to share this with you here, because a lot of people don't know this. All right. Also, if you like this type of information and you want to support the African History Network, we definitely need your support. It takes a lot of work, takes finances to keep us running and do the research, pay the bills, stay on the air. PayPal.me, paypal.me/the AHN show, paypal.me/the AHN show. Okay. All right. And also AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Click on the yellow donate button there as well. And then also you can register for the online courses that I teach. We have them all on demand. We have a 10-course bundle pack. It's on sale $60, regularly $130. And it includes Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, what they didn't teach you in school. That is a 14-hour, 7-session online course that I teach. And it deals with thousands of years of history. All these are on demand. That's at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com also. Okay, so ThinkProgress.org had an article from January 9th, 2017. Kentucky Republicans assault unions and wages in first act of the year. Kentucky Republicans assault unions and wages in first act of the year. Kentucky is now the country's 27th so-called right-to-work state. Now, right-to-work is heavily financed by the Koch brothers. They're a nonprofit organization, Americans for Prosperity. Okay, and it says last year, referring to 2017, Republican Matt Bevin won the governorship of Kentucky, taking over from Democrat Steve Beshear. Then in November of 2016, Republicans took full control of the state legislature after they gained their first majority in Kentucky's state house in almost a century. And the very first things the Republican majority did with its power this past weekend were to pass so-called right-to-work law, which will likely weaken unions' finances, and repeal a prevailing wage law that ensures government contractors pay decently. Repeal a prevailing wage law that ensures government contractors pay decently. Kentucky was the last of the southern states that had not gone right to work, that had not adopted a right to work law. But after Governor Bevin signed the bill on Saturday, it now joins the rest, okay? Right to work laws create what critics call a free rider problem, R-I-D-E-R. Normally, all workers in a unionized workplace must pay dues to the union, given that it's bargaining on their behalf. But right to work laws allow people to opt out of dues, even if they're still being represented, which means they can benefit from union negotiations over wages and working conditions, but don't have to give any money to support these efforts. So what happens is, this is a right-wing attempt to weaken unions. Right to work laws drive down wages. In states that have right to work laws, they on average drive down wages about, if I remember correctly, it's about 3%. Okay, they drive down wages. But what happens is they are attacking the wages of a lot of white Republicans who voted for them and belong to unions. Here's look at the article from Think Progress. By weakening union power, research has found that right to work laws have negative impacts on all workers. These laws end up reducing wages. Pay is about 3% lower in right to work states compared to those without such laws. I was correct. Which comes to around $1,500 less a year for a typical worker. They also lower the likelihood of receiving employer benefits like health insurance or a pension. So here you have white people in Kentucky, white people voting for Republicans. And you got some poor white people in Kentucky, and Senator Mitch McConnell's from Kentucky. Some of the very poor people who belong to unions voted for these Republicans, and one of the first laws they passed when they came into office was to implement right to work, which attacks some of the very poor people who put them in office. Now, some of these same people realized that they had the Affordable Health Care Act, and it was called Kentucky Connect, and these Republicans were trying to take away their health care. Okay, so read this article here. This is what happens when a lot of people, a lot of white people, get blinded by racism and white supremacy. Okay, as opposed to understanding how these policies really impact them, and oftentimes it's against their interest to keep voting for Republicans. Now, that doesn't mean I don't have problems with Democrats. I'm neither Republican or Democrat, but I study policies. Most people listening and watching this didn't even know about this. I talked about this when this article came out back in January 2017, because I study this type of information. Okay, so we have to look at the policies. There's some Democrats I have problems with, like the mayor here in the city of Detroit. Big problem. Okay, he's a fake mayor. Should never been. I mean, you get 40,000 people to spell Duggan correctly on the write-in ballot. Really? Okay, in a city that has a what was it, 38% functional illiteracy rate, something like that. Okay, I'm talking about the city of Detroit. Okay, so read this article here. Kentucky Republicans assault unions and wages in first act of the year. This is from January 9th, 2017. Happy New Year. Okay, and then look at this other article. New York Times, 1/3 don't know Obamacare and Affordable Health Care Act are the same. February 7th, 2017. Okay. All right. So if we go back and we'll go to come to some of your comments here. How's everybody doing? All right. And African American business owners, hey, email us at customer service at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Customer service at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. You can advertise with the African History Network. Our podcast, our audio podcast of our various broadcasts, our radio show that's on Sunday night, and also these podcasts, these broadcasts I do here on Facebook. We reach thousands of people across the country with each episode. We're on 6 different podcast platforms. We take your 30-second to 60-second commercial, put it into the podcast, and this can help generate new customers for your business. Customer service at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. First month is 50% off. It's very, very affordable. We can get you up and running today. All right. So he talked about Nelson Mandela also, Trump. Now, this is in the article from Yahoo News, but not the interview with Vanity Fair. All right. So Trump responded, quote, that's because black people are too stupid to vote for me, according to Michael Cohen. Okay, we're back. Okay. So in the article from Yahoo News, but not the article from Vanity Fair, they mentioned Nelson Mandela. So several years before, when talking about the death of South African leader Nelson Mandela, Donald Trump said to Michael Cohen, quote, name one country run by a black person that's not an S-hole. Okay. And then he added, name one city, Cohen recalled. Now, last January 2018, during a meeting with members of Congress, Trump repeatedly called African nations, Haiti and El Salvador, S-hole countries. Okay. And Senator Dick Durbin, Democrat from Illinois, said this at the time. All right. And the White House denied the president used such language. But when they were first contacted, they did not deny this at all. And Trump was calling around, when you research this, Trump was calling around to different Republican friends and things like this, saying, hey, getting reactions to the comments that he made. All right, now, they got a response from Kwame Jackson. Let me see here, okay? If we look at the article from Vanity Fair, and then we'll come to some of your comments in just a second. So they talk about The Apprentice. After the first few seasons of The Apprentice, Michael Cohen recalled how he and Donald Trump were discussing the reality show and past season winners. The conversation wended its way back to the show's first season, which ended in a head-to-head between 2 contestants, Bill Rancic, I don't know where Bill is now, and Kwame Jackson. Quote, Trump was explaining his back and forth and not picking Jackson, an African-American investment manager who had graduated from Harvard Business School. Quote, he said, there was no way I was going to let that black F-G win. So I guess it's a slur for homosexuals. Now, Kwame Jackson told me that he had heard that the president made such a comment. Okay. And this is according to the writer of the article from Vanity Fair, Emily Jane Fox. Emily Jane Fox is the writer of this article for Vanity Fair, which was released today, November 2nd, 2018. Jackson told me that he had heard that the president made such a comment. Quote, my response to President Trump is simple and Wakandan. Wakandan in reference to Black Panther. Okay. Not today, colonizer. This is the response from Kwame Jackson. Okay. Not today, colonizer. All right. So in retrospect, Michael Cohen told Emily Jane Fox in the article for Vanity Fair that he wishes he had quit the Trump organization when he heard these offensive remarks. Quote, I should have been a bigger person and I should have left. Okay. They always, after all the dirt's done, then they're sorry. I just find that interesting. After all the dirt is done and they get caught, the money's spent, now they're sorry. Okay. Let me see. What was another one? Okay, let's go to some of your comments here. All right, just a second here. Let me pull this back up. All right, so we have Ganjaman, Peace Family. We've got Tria, Sally. Let me go to some of your comments because this thing got knocked out. Something was coming through on my phone. They're rich off us buying cars, overcharging banks. What's your home loan taxes, overtaxing them, our banking account fees, buying furniture, insurance for your car insurance, for your life. Some not sometimes, not even paying it off when you die, Barbara said. Sally Russell said it's really just a lack of knowledge in most, so they just have an I don't care attitude about political things. Well, a lot of that's true. So a lot of African Americans are suffering from low self-esteem and low racial esteem because we've been stripped of our history and culture. Our history and culture is directly attached to our self-esteem. It's attached to our self-image, our understanding of our history and culture. So many African Americans have low self-esteem and they have low racial esteem. They have a low perception of their race as a people. This is why they oftentimes use derogatory terminology to refer to our people as a whole, calling us N-words and things like this, and ratchet, and referring to our women as hood rat, all types of derogatory terms. Okay, so what you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself. What you think about yourself is based upon what you have been taught about yourself. What you've been taught about yourself is based upon everything you've read, heard, and seen about yourself. Okay, so since we are operating from this deficit, and our history is totally different than anybody else's history in this country, the people whose history comes closest to ours are Native Americans, and for the most part, they still, to varying degrees, still have their history and culture intact. Okay, with us, we are operating at a much greater deficit. So this is why we must take our minds back. It doesn't matter how much money we have. If we still have a colonized mind, we'll still give 97% of those dollars to people that don't look like us. Okay, this is why the foundation. This is when I had Dr. Claude Anderson on, and well, no, this was in a private conversation. He talked about the 5-story building. And I said, no, Doc, it's 6 stories. It's not 5. The foundation is African history and culture. Okay. And he said, no, it's 5 stories. He said, don't get distracted from it. I'm just like, Doc, no. We have a $1.3 trillion economy. 97% of our dollars are spent with people that don't look like us because that first story is not there. The foundation can't be economics because every other ethnic group, when you study them, their foundation is not economics. Their foundation is their history and culture. That gives them the cohesiveness for them to build an economic base, okay, and to keep their economics in their community. When you hate who you are and love who you can't be, if somehow you build an economic base, you're going to spend a majority of that money with people that don't look like you, and you're going to spend a majority of that money trying to look like people who don't look like you, trying to emulate people who don't look like you, because you're operating from a colonized mindset, okay? So this is why if we go with the multi-story building from Dr. Claude Anderson, the foundation has to be African history and culture, period. Okay, so let's go back to some of your comments. In Bantu Stephen Biko, one of our great South African freedom fighters who was portrayed in the 1987 movie Cry Freedom by Denzel Washington, Bantu Stephen Biko said the most potent weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. The most potent weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. So we must take our minds back. Sally Russell said, yes, each and every race and each and every race respect and love each other. We hate each other. Well, many of us hate each other. I don't want to say all of us hate each other, but but see, we've been taught to hate each other. Okay, we've been taught to hate each other, and other people have been taught to hate us because of negative stereotypical images of African Americans in the media that are exported around the world. So when people say, well, other immigrants hate us, the first question I would ask them is why? When you talk about, oh, you have some Hispanics that hate us. Well, you got some African Americans that hate themselves and hate people that look like them. The question I would ask is why? So what we have to understand is white supremacy pits groups of oppressed people against each other to keep fighting one another so a minority population stays in power over a larger group of people of color who are oppressed. This is what happens throughout the world. How did 10% of the world population gain control over 90%? How do they maintain control over 90%? So when they say, oh, well, you have immigrants that hate us, the question I would ask is why? The same people who taught you, the same people who taught them to hate you, taught you to hate yourself. This is why we have to push back and correct and challenge these negative stereotypical images of our people that we see in the movies, in media, in negative in negative corporate controlled hip hop, because these images do not just stay in the U.S. They are exported around the world, and they influence how people perceive you and act towards you. If you go back and watch them, if you go back and look at the TV show back in the 1990s, Baywatch, starring guy from Knight Rider, okay, Michael, I forgot his name, David Hasselhoff, okay. I'm not saying the show was a negative show portraying African Americans, but this is just an example. When you research that TV show, Baywatch was the most watched TV show in the world. See, we just look at things here in America and we don't understand the impact that these images have around the world. Baywatch, go research this. Baywatch was shown in about 130 different countries around the world. These were images exported out of the U.S. And this was a syndicated television show. Baywatch was not on the major networks. It wasn't on ABC, NBC, CBS. Baywatch was a syndicated television show that was exported around the world and shown, and it was viewed in about 130 different countries. At one point, it was the most watched television show in the world. Okay? So we have to understand this to fight back against these images. All right. Let's look at some of your comments here. And those in the Detroit area, I'll be speaking at Wayne State University Saturday, November 3rd. I'm at the Motor City Black Age of Comics Comic Book Convention. It's a Black Comic Book Convention. It's from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. It's at Gullen Mall. It's at the Student Center building at Wayne State University in Detroit at Gullen Mall. Address is 5221 Gullen Mall, Gullen. Tickets at $10. Visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com for more information. I'm on a panel discussion from 3:30 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. Black Panther Uncoded, Black Panther Decoded, dealing with the film Black Panther. I'll have a vendor table there, have my DVD lectures. And people, you can visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. You can order our bundle pack, our digital download bundle pack dealing with the film Black Panther. Black Panther is a 8 digital download Black Panther bundle pack, includes 3 of my lectures dealing with the film Black Panther, and then we have a bundle pack of DVDs also. All right, the digital download bundle pack, I think that's $60 or something like that. Check that out. Okay, all right. Willie Daniels said I'm late, but evening, my people, kings and goddesses. Okay, Sally's exactly. Kelly said exactly. Media in Hollywood. Okay, I think she's saying they portray negative images of African Americans. Martez said, I was always told that Africans, especially Nigerians, do not like us. Who told you that? And why? See, you have to understand, they're dealing with white supremacy in Africa also. This is why some African nations like Nigeria, Ghana, South Africa, this is why some of them, not all of them, are bleaching their skin. They're dealing with white supremacy there. Okay? So, the same people who taught some continental Africans not to like us, taught us not to like continental Africans. Who was that? This Europe that's coming from white supremacy and racism. This is why. You have many continental Africans who don't know their history prior to colonialism, because many of them have been miseducated also. All this comes out of white supremacy and racism. Okay, let's continue here. Rap music has to go. ASCP is killing our community, said Willie. We're talking about negative corporate control hip hop. Not all hip hop is negative. So Warner said exactly, too many black people support nail salons and other businesses not owned by us, owned by people who do not support our businesses and take the money out of the community to support and advance their causes. Ira said, you are 100% correct about that. We have to get out of the sunken place and get our mind back first. We can love one another through studying who we really are. Yeah, when you study your history and culture, it causes you to have a love for your people, for your ancestors, for their successes, for the fights that they had even when they failed. It causes you to have a love and appreciation for this, okay? It changes, you see reality through a cultural paradigm, an African cultural paradigm, as opposed to a European cultural paradigm. And because we've been stripped of our history and culture, and somebody else's history and culture has been imposed upon us, somebody else's language has been imposed upon us, we've been taught to see reality through the eyes of Europeans. So consequently, we instinctively believe that if something is good for them, it's automatically good for us. And many times that's not the case. Sometimes it may be the case, but it's not always the case. So we have to be able to do a systems analysis and analyze that through an African-centered cultural paradigm to determine whether or not something is good for us. Okay, I'm looking at some more of your comments here. Amy said voting can feel pointless when you are forced to pick people who only use you for the votes. But if you see in this midterm elections, you have more candidates that come from your background, your voice can have more leverage. Yeah, but see, it's not just the personality; it's the policies. We need to study the policies of other candidates. Even if you feel like the vote is hopeless, no, there are going to be policies that they're going to put in place that impact you. We have to understand what our issues are. To understand our issues, we need to understand our history. Okay, you can't understand the issues that are really important until you understand your history. Okay, and then we have to look at the policies that the candidates have and see whose policies best match up with ours. Then also what we have to do, and in a lot of these cities where we're seeing, especially a lot of African American women running, just like there was an article, there was a story from MSNBC that talked about how you have a lot of African American women running for office in Tennessee. Okay, and when we see a lot of these candidates, they're being supported by a lot of small donations. They're being supported by like grassroots efforts, a lot of small donations, because people realize it's like, wait a second, whoever is in this office is going to be voting on laws and passing laws that impact every aspect of my life, whether it's health care, whether it's education, whether it's criminal justice reform, whether it's dealing with the Department of Justice, all different types of policies. Okay, so they realize, okay, look, we need to run candidates in these districts, in these races. We need to run candidates, and we need to donate to campaigns. We need to help finance people, okay, whose policies line up with our interests. The other thing is that we have to understand political self-defense, and that's part of it. But the other part is voting against people and keeping people out of office whose policies you realize are detrimental to your existence. Okay? So this is the other thing that we have to do. All right, we have to vote strategically and defensively as well. And a lot of these people who get reelected across the country, we have to realize we have to take them out of office if their policies are not beneficial to us. And then also people who are running, and we perceive that their policies are a threat, we have to keep them out of office as well. You have to vote to keep them out of office also, to defend yourself. Let me see. There was a story from MSNBC. We shared it here, on our Facebook fan page, the African History Network. A wave of African American women elected in Tennessee. A wave of African American women elected in Tennessee. That's from MSNBC.com. Check out that story. Tremaine Lee for MSNBC did that story. All right. Kelly said, do you like Candace Owens? Are you asking me if I like Candace Owens? Let me know, Kelly. Guymer Lance, are you asking me if I like Candace Owens, or are you asking someone else if they like Candace Owens? Terrence said, I don't vote for no one no more since how they voted this year on elected to president of the United States. I don't understand your comment, Terrence. Kevin said, I know one thing, black folks should own hair businesses all around this world. Don't nobody know more about black people hair than black people. That's true. Now, here's the thing. When we own these businesses, in the hair businesses, right, we have to support them. See, this is the other thing. This is why, see, I taught entrepreneurship for like 7 years. I also taught at a community college. I taught for a nonprofit. So one of the things that's missing when we talk economic empowerment and entrepreneurship, and we need more businesses, we need to go from spending 3% of our dollars with African-American owned businesses to at least 10%. Why? Because there was a study from the Kellogg School of Management at Northwestern University. Kellogg School of Management. Now, the Kellogg School of Management is one of the top business schools in the country. I couldn't afford to go to the Kellogg School of Management, so I went to Wayne State's business school here in Detroit, Wayne State University. That's a good business school. And the study from the Kellogg School of Management showed that if African-American households that have an annual income of $75,000 or more, if they spent $1 out of every $10 with African-American owned businesses, that's 10%. Okay, they spent $1 out of every $10 with African-American owned businesses. We can create 500,000 to 1 million jobs. All right. So that's doable if we look at going from 3% to 10%. For African-American households that have annual incomes of under $75,000 a year do this, I mean, we can create 500,000 to 1 million jobs very easily. However, that does not get us out of the hole. The reason why is, I forgot the number. So there are 2.6 million African-American owned businesses as of 2012. The data is probably about 3 million. Only 100,000 have employees. I forgot the number of employees they have. It's probably, I think it's right around 1 million, okay? Or maybe under that. The problem with this that the people who keep preaching economic empowerment don't deal with is that there are approximately 19 million African Americans in the labor market either working or looking for work. So if your solution is saying that we need more black-owned businesses, that's not going to get it. One, we have to spend more dollars with those businesses. So we need to make a list of our monthly expenditures and direct at least 10% of those dollars to African American owned businesses. One. Two, that's still not going to create enough jobs so that the majority of African Americans work for black owned businesses. That's not going to do it. So a lot of us are still going to work for white businesses. That's just for the foreseeable future. That's just the that's just the facts. The majority of us, or a lot of us, are still going to work for white owned businesses for the foreseeable future. But increasing that economic foundation, that economic base, has to happen at the same time. Okay, see, I'm very realistic on this. I'm very realistic on this. This is why I don't chastise. I'm not against people working for white people, because last time I checked, white people pay on time too. Hello. So I'm not attacking that at all. And a lot of African Americans who start their own business, they got to go to their relatives who work for white people to get the seed money in the first place. So why are we going to attack that? That doesn't even make sense. That doesn't even make sense. We need both. Now, if we look at this from a systems analysis, we look at African Americans work for General Motors, Ford, Chrysler, Apple, Amazon, you name the company, right? Do we spend dollars with those businesses? Yes. So in essence, we're paying for these jobs that white people have. So why wouldn't we have jobs in those companies that we pay for also? Let me repeat that in case you didn't get this, right? Coca-Cola, McDonald's, Sprint, Verizon, Comcast. Do we spend dollars with them? We spend billions of dollars a year with these companies, right? So the jobs that people have in these companies, black people pay for those jobs. So why would we spend dollars with these companies and pay for these jobs, but then say, oh, we should only work for our own company? No, you pay for those jobs. We should get some of those jobs. Those are jobs we paid for. We should take advantage of the stock purchase plans they have, their health insurance, the 401k plan, any discounts they have, tuition reimbursement. We paid for all of that. But we should take some of those resources that we get and some of that money that we get to help finance and start African-American owned businesses and support African-American owned businesses. It's not an either or, it's both. Because a lot of these jobs white people have at these corporations, we're paying for. So you mean to tell me we're not going to take advantage of some of that? That don't even make sense. That don't even make sense. It's both. It's having jobs there and in our own businesses. And you can do both. You don't have, it's not, see, one thing I don't tell people to do is I tell people, don't quit your day job. Oh, hell no, don't quit your day job. Because if you actually study entrepreneurship, about 51% of all new businesses don't make a profit till like the third year in business. And even when they start making a profit, that doesn't mean the owner can take a paycheck. And if you can take a paycheck, oftentimes, early on in that business, it ain't nothing like you were making working at a corporation. So this is why I tell people, don't quit your day job. See, I used to work for one of my former college professors at Wayne State in the business school. He's African American. I worked with him for 7 years, Jim Robinson. I worked with him for 7 years. And I saw where he was teaching at Wayne State, and he had partners in his business. The partners worked in corporate America, different business, but they hired one of Jim's relatives to be the general manager of the business to handle the day-to-day operations while they're out working their jobs, getting money, and the business is employing other people. So the owners of the business were not solely dependent upon this business to generate income from them. They have income coming from other places. It's not just one way to do this. This is why I tell people, don't quit your day job, okay? Unless you are ready to quit. And see, a lot of times your business can't afford you. If you watch, when I say your business can't afford you, I mean it can't afford to pay you a salary. All you have to do is watch the Shark Tank on ABC. And you'll see what I'm talking about. You watch the Shark Tank, most of the companies that do the business pitches are white. And you'll see oftentimes they've been established. You know, usually these are not startup companies. They're not 6 months old, a year old. Sometimes you'll see that, but a lot of times they've been established 3 years, 5 years. And oftentimes you'll hear the owners say, we're not taking a salary. They'll show you their balance, you know, they'll talk about their revenue year over year. And we did $1 million 2 years ago. We're doing 1.5 this year. Next year, we're going to do 2 million. And then you come to find out the owners are not taking a salary. And they're white. And the average white family has the median net worth for a white family is about $141,000 compared to $11,000 for an African American family. So if they're white and they most likely have more resources than the average African American family, and they're not taking a salary, what do you think is going to happen to us? Don't quit your day job. I'm telling you. You do that if you want to. There's nothing like a steady paycheck. Okay? And last time I checked, white people paid on time, usually. So I'm telling you, don't quit your day job. I'm all for economic empowerment. Okay? But one thing I'm not going to do is to sell you some panacea, fairy tale BS about entrepreneurship. Oh, hell no. People that know me, I keep it real. I'm not going to do that. And I've been doing this too long to know the difference. Okay? So I'm not going to do that. All right. Cory Booker said, man, is this Cory Booker running for, is this Senator Cory Booker or is this another Cory Booker? All right. All right, cool. Okay, hey guys, listen to the. Okay, so every Sunday, you know, we do the African History Network show. I'm on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation, WFDF here in Detroit. We broadcast around the world. All of our shows are podcasts. I have almost 900 audio podcasts of the show. Okay. You can go to AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Click on the link there, listen to podcasts, Michael Imhotep. It takes you to our Blog Talk Radio page. All the podcasts are there. If you like this type of information, you want to support the African History Network, we definitely need your support. You can donate at paypal.me, paypal.me/the AHN show, paypal.me/the AHN show, okay? Or on Facebook, on our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, has the yellow PayPal button. Also, you can order our DVD lectures, my lectures there that helps to support us also. And we have, you know, the bundle packs, the Black Panther 8 digital download bundle pack. That's about, I think, $50, something like that. I forgot the exact price. Includes 3 of my lectures dealing with the film Black Panther and some other presentations as well. That's the digital download, so you can order from around the world. We have the Mel Trek series for children, animated series for children. And this teaches our children their African history also, okay? And we also have a bundle pack that includes a coloring book and a storybook as well, and 2 cartoons. So all that's at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. You can also register for the online courses that I teach that are all on demand. Watch at your own pace. All this helps to finance the Fun African History Network, helps us to keep doing the research, stay on the air. This is a lot of research. This is no joke. Helps us pay the bills, stay on the air, etc. Keep broadcasting. So this Sunday, so last Sunday, you know, we had Dr. Claude Anderson on. And we dealt with how black people can use economics to enforce our politics, leveraging our economics to enforce our politics. Okay, that's what we dealt with. This Sunday, I'm going to deal with the history of why and how African Americans switched from the Republican Party to the Democratic Party. The history of why and how African Americans switched from the Democratic Party, switched from the Republican Party to the Democratic Party. And this happened long before the 1964 Voting Rights Act. This is what a lot of people don't understand. Okay, the last third of African Americans switched over in '64, but this goes back over 30 years. This history goes back over 30 years before that. All right, so we have to understand that history. Okay, all right. So that's coming up this Sunday, November 4th, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we broadcast here on Facebook Live. We broadcast on 9:10 a.m. WFDF in Detroit. And if you go to AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, we have the information there on the homepage, how to listen live, how to listen to the podcast also. All right. Download the Castbox app. Download the Castbox app to your smartphone, because you can listen to our podcast there also, and some other great podcasts. And then also the TuneIn.com app, TuneIn.com. Either TuneIn.com on the internet or download the TuneIn app, TUNE, to your smartphone. Allows you to listen to radio stations across the country. TuneIn has our audio podcasts of our shows also, about 300 there. About 300 audio podcasts there, okay? All right. Let's see here. I'm looking at some of the comments. And what was the article? There was an article that I wrote. There was an article that I wrote entitled "Why does a dollar only last 6 hours in the African American community?" Something like that. What was the name of that article? I have to pull that up. That article had referenced the study from the Kellogg School of Management that I was talking about. Let me try to pull that article up. I'm trying to pull that article up right now. Let's see here. What is this? Okay, why is the lifespan of a dollar only 6 hours in the African American community? That was an article that I wrote back December 6, 2015. Now that statistic, I don't think is a real statistic because I researched that statistic. Is at least 20 years old. I can't find a source for it. However, it was a segment on News One Now with Roland Martin. Okay, it's a segment from News One Now with Roland Martin. Also, watch Roland's daily digital show. It airs 6 p.m. Monday through Friday Eastern Standard Time live, and then they re-air it multiple times throughout the day. Roland Martin on Facebook and Roland Martin on YouTube. You can watch it there. Also go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. It's just like his TV show News One Now. It's like the best daily show, best daily digital daily show, TV show there is right now. I'm going to give you this the article from the Kellogg School of Management. Let me see. I think that was from New York Times. Is that what it was? Let's see here. Okay, a study by the Kellogg School of Management at Northwestern University found that between 500,000 and 1 million jobs could be created if higher income African Americans, households that have annual incomes of $75,000 or more, spent 1 out of every $10 at African American owned businesses. Okay, and yeah, so that was that one right there. So I'm going to post a link here to this article. You can read all of my articles that I write at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Read all of them there. And the article I was citing was from the New York Times. Blacks are challenged to buy from black-owned businesses to close gap. That was an article by Tatiana Walk Morris from November 5th, 2015. Okay, and she was interviewed in that article. Maggie Anderson, who wrote the book Our Great Year. She was interviewed in that article. Okay, so we'll post a link to this article here that I wrote here on the thread of our broadcast. But you can read all of my articles at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. All right. Okay. All right, so we're about to get out of here. Hey, look at the okay, Nisi said, Michael, I downloaded the podcast app. Please tell me which one to go to listen to you. Just search for the African History Network show. Search for the African History Network show on any podcast platform. Which app did you download? I was talking about Castbox. You can download TuneIn. You can download iTunes, Acast. There are a couple of other ones, but just any of them. Just search for the African History Network show on any of those podcast platforms. Okay. Blog Talk Radio is mine, and that one has 900, almost 900 podcasts there. And when I upload the podcasts, I upload them to our Blog Talk Radio channel, and then they're automatically uploaded to these other podcast platforms. Okay, search for the African History Network show on the podcast apps and platforms. So when I take like this one right here, this broadcast here, and I turn the audio podcast form, and I put in your 30-second to 60-second commercial that you either send to me or we record for your African American owned business, people hear those ads across the platforms where our podcasts play. Okay. So once again, African American owned businesses, email us at customerservice@africanhistorynetwork.com. Customer service at africanhistorynetwork.com. You can send us a 30-second or 60-second commercial that you have, or we can record one for you. And we can get that up and running today or tomorrow. And we reach thousands of people with each episode across the country. And this will help you gain new customers as well, generate revenue for your business. Customer service at africanhistorynetwork.com. First month is 50% off, by the way. Okay. All right. Okay. Thanks, Pat. Got your cartoons on Kemet and Omex. All right. Look, people, we have to get out of here. Hey, remember at the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it corrects wrong behavior. What you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself. Right now, it's correct wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. See you all in Detroit, Saturday, November 3rd at Wayne State University, Student Center Building, Gullen Mall, 5221 Gullen Mall, 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. for the 10th annual Motor City Black Age of Comics Convention. I'll be speaking 3:30 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. on the panel discussion dealing with Black Panther Decoded, dealing with the film Black Panther. I have my DVDs there. I have a vendor table. And visit AfricanHistoryNetwork.com for more information. All right. Talk to y'all later. Peace.